Welcome back to the Nerdrotic podcast. This is the Nerdrotic recap of American Gods, episode 3, A Head Full of Snow, and it is brought to you by nerdrotic.com. My name is Gary Buechler. I am live in San Francisco, California on YouTube, and I am with my co-host and good friend who's about to get married, John Reed. What's up, John?
Hey, how's it going, man? I was really disappointed in this episode. I thought we were going to get some Jon Snow here. We didn't. There was no Jon Snow. I'm no longer watching this show because no, just kidding. I think this
is he still dead?
Episode.
No. Well, he's still dead in the books.
Yeah, he's alive in American Gods apparently. No. This was my favorite episode I think so far. There have been some good, like we've talked about. There's been good and bad in both of the first two episodes, but this was, I think, from beginning to end, my favorite of the three. So yeah, I can't wait to break it down.
Yeah, visually it was beautiful, and it was also my favorite episode of the series. Although, I did like the first episode, and as some can see, or maybe not, that we didn't like the second episode very much. This one really feels like it brought a pacing that I was kind of, and I don't want to blame the filmmakers or the TV makers for my expectations, but this is the episode that met my expectations as far as being surreal and just visually stunning, especially in the beginning. I love that beginning scene with Anubis, and just the stairway, and the beautiful. It wasn't a confrontation. It was just like two adults having a conversation about death, and it was really cool how they pulled that off, and the sweet grandma while she's making dinner for her ungrateful grandchildren and children. And I love how they didn't show her die. Like she kept on, making the sauce, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm dead." I loved how they dealt with that, and the beauty of the scene, the music behind it. Everything was gorgeous about that scene.
Yeah. It's another one of those where the opening scene. Well, okay. First of all, let's just say, we did not like the last episode, and it's not to say that there wasn't things that we did like about the episode, right? It's just like on the whole, I didn't enjoy it. Like it wasn't an enjoyable experience to watch. However, this episode, I decided to see, I wanted to kind of check myself and say, like, am I only talking about the things I don't like and not giving enough credit to the things I do like, especially in this show? I think we all have a tendency to do that. So I just wanted to really quickly run down. I made a list of pros and cons for this episode.
Okay.
And I wanted to run down and see if you agree. Okay. So
Sure.
Here I like the opening with the spray paint can on the buildings of Chicago. I love the visual of that. I loved the hairless cat. I liked the desert, the scene of the desert with all the doors and Mr. Jackal asking her to pick a door. I just thought the visual of that was really cool. In fact, it reminded me of something out of maybe like Sandman a little bit. And I know it's straight from the book, but like visually, we haven't seen this book before. And so it was cool to see visually some of these things come to life. I loved the scene. I loved how the stars were filmed in this episode, especially with the morning star looking through the telescope and having that conversation. I like when the show gets fantastical. I think that's when the show is at its best, is when you get some sort of fantasy in with the kind of grittiness of the way that it's shot, like the desaturation of everything, but you still get these fantastical elements. I love the sound editing, everything from the when they're smoking cigarettes, you hear the cigarette very clearly, because a lot of the times there's no dialogue. It's just people wandering around. And I don't love those scenes particularly, but I do like what they do with sound other than the soundtrack, because I think the soundtrack at most points isn't to my taste. I loved the visual of the clouds coming in to cover up the stars when Mr. Wednesday kisses the evening star. I thought that was really interesting. As well as the slow motion shot of them in the rain. I thought that looked like
that was
fantastic.
Beautiful.
A lot of the stuff I like is visual, but I also liked the scene of the whole scene where Mad Sweeney has the beer bottle and the bar owner shoots it out of his mouth with the shotgun, and you see I don't know, it looked like almost like ice coming down. I don't know, it looked really cool. I like all of the written scene transitions that they have, where it's like I forget what it said, like somewhere in America, and it had like on the street. I thought that was looked really cool, as well as the visual of the clock behind Salim when he was sitting in the office. Um, the the passing of time with the big clock behind him
Yep.
was really fucking cool looking. Um, I also I like how they're tying in the flaming eyes to indicate certain things, right? Like we'll get into it when we discuss the episode a little bit more, but I like the visual storytelling of identifying types of gods and creatures together with certain like visual cues, especially those flaming eyes of the Jinn. Um, I like the way the show plays with your expectations, right? Like I don't think I was like without reading the book, I wouldn't have thought that the scene, like the Salim character and the Jinn in the cab, you wouldn't expect the scene those characters to end up where they end up, right? Like I like how the show plays with those types of expectations. I like how comedic they have made Shadow in this. Like
Yes.
they've given him a lot of good one-liners and funny scenes, which I didn't expect going into this because he's kind of a straight man in the story, and so I like how they've given him comedic pieces to work with. Um, I like the visual of the car driving over the marshmallows with
Yeah,
the
that was awesome.
down, especially when we're getting into like what are Shadow's powers? Who is this guy? Did he create the snow? You get these kind of visual elements to show that something's different there, and I liked that one specifically. Um, I like the conversations they have about Jesus in this episode specifically. Like everyone has their own Jesus, like the Mexican Jesus. Like I love all of that. In fact, I like when the show gets into philosophy and theology without tying it specifically to current events. Like that's where I feel like the show is good with like timeless explorations of theology and philosophy. I don't like when they tie those things to a specific time or place, and I think that's where the show tends to fall down, in my opinion. But I like this specific conversation about the Jesuses because I feel like whether that's happening when he wrote the book or today when we're filming the show, it's still apt, right? Um, I love the character of Mad Sweeney, and I loved Mr. Wednesday's earmuffs. So that was my list of things that I really liked in the episode. And then the list of things I didn't like was a lot shorter. I just don't like the character of Zernabog in this. I just don't like it. I don't like anything going on with that character. I'm happy that they moved on from it. I don't love the soundtrack, although it has. There were times when I did like it, but there were also times when it got in the way for me. Um, I didn't love I don't like this show how there's a lot of scenes of just people staring off into silence for or staring off at things or into nothingness for long periods of time. I just feel like you could get those things across differently, right? Like there's ways to do it. I didn't like how little Shadow was in this episode because I love that character, and I felt like the whole middle of the episode, as much as I liked it, I would it went on for a long time without our main characters, and to me this is a pacing issue, like an episodic pacing issue. I also or sorry, a season pacing issue. And just generally, I don't like how long each scene is. I think you could use a little editing. I feel like they're a little indulgent at times. I didn't like that whole bank heist revolved around a payphone. I know that the book was written when payphones still existed, but if they're modernizing the story, they should probably modernize that aspect of the story. And the one visual thing I didn't like is I don't like generally how desaturated they're making the story because the fantastical stuff is my favorite stuff, and I would like the colors to be a little bit more vibrant and interesting. And going with that, I don't love when they do these. They do it a lot. These like blurry zooms. Uh, Visually, I just don't. I feel like they do it. They use that tool too much in the storytelling. So that was my list of things I loved versus things I don't love in this episode. And you'll note that the things I loved were a lot longer than the things I didn't like in this specific episode. I don't know if they were as big, but there were definitely more little elements to this episode that I really enjoyed. So sorry to ramble on at the beginning, But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a full idea of where I was coming from when we kind of break down everything scene by scene.
Wow, that's quite a list. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, the blurry zoom thing comes from that aesthetic comes from the people were shooting everything on Canons, a few years ago. And because they were beautiful, but they were hard to focus and you had to be close up, and the guys out there who know how to shoot know what I'm talking about and would know better than me. But that's where that aesthetic came from. It was, and it was used a lot in music videos. I know they still make them these days, but you're down in LA with a lot of kids shooting stuff. And this is back in our Technicolor in deluxe days.
Yeah.
And we would do side shoots and stuff and use our Canon 5Ds for everything. And that's where that aesthetic comes from. I totally agree with you with, there is desaturated scenes, but there's like beautiful. I mean, the scene where Mr. Jackal or Anubis is walking up the stairs with what was her name again? I had Mrs. Fidel. Mrs.
Okay.
Fidel's death, and they're walking up the steps, and that scene where they're panning inside the apartments, and they're going up the windows, and the cat's following up the stairs, and you're seeing it through the apartment. That was just freaking gorgeous. And then when you look up, it was just it felt, I put in my notes, felt very Pink Floyd.
Yes.
Just the stairway going, it looked like an album cover. It looked like an awesome 70s album cover, and the colors just popped. And then the space sky they had going on, and the sand blowing over the cliff a little bit. It was just gorgeous. And those big stone things that look like TARDISes, which that's actually how I used to imagine what a real TARDIS looks like until they actually showed it in the 50th anniversary episode.
Yes.
But what was okay, and then back to the bank heist real quick. What, I didn't notice the payphone thing. What I noticed was the implausibility of that bank heist. But other than that, that didn't bother me, because anytime Shadow and Mr. Wednesday are together on their little road trip, whatever that is, it's freaking hilarious. It feels like a Walter Matthau movie, it does. And it's like Ian McShane is so great in this.
Yes.
And it just makes me miss Deadwood. And I'm just going to go back and watch Deadwood a little bit, because I miss his character in that. But that guy just, he's one of those guys who just became bigger the older he got. And he's just been amazing. Zernabog, I like him.
You like
I
him?
like him.
Okay.
I actually, I felt the scene in the last episode just drew on way too freaking long. And the way they dealt with it at the beginning of this episode was how I felt they should have dealt with it. Just, show the last couple of moves of the checker game. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the whole goddamn thing. But I noticed that too, with the sound, with him smoking in bed, and you can hear like the crackling of the cigarette, and it sounded, it's amazing how something as disgusting as a middle-aged European, and they make him disgusting looking, laying in bed with his nasty toes, smoking cigarettes, can be so beautifully artistic. And that's David Slade, the director, is I'm loving this guy. And I guess he's worked with Brian Fuller in the past. And I think he worked on Hannibal, but this is my first experience watching the guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, I would point to this episode probably as a way to do pretentious has such a negative connotation. I'm trying to find a better word for it, but without being really self-indulgent, right? Like, this is a way to do something in an interesting way that's not of the norm for this kind of storytelling, right? Without it being super super Like there's this nice balance this episode that I really appreciated.
Yeah, and it was surreal from beginning to end, but and still mixing in this cute little comedic scenes, like when Mr. Wednesday buys Shadow a cup of cocoa, and he's like, I got marshmallows. He's like, why are we talking about marshmallows? And yeah, I like marshmallows.
Yeah, you don't like marshmallows? No, I love marshmallows.
Yeah, I like marshmallows. So that was cool. That was such a well-delivered line. It made me laugh. It made me laugh. And then
I love the opening too, where I think one of the first lines of this was black people family upstairs. If you're here to rob, then rob. Like, I just loved her attitude. Like, she's dead and she's giving this, the god of death shit for showing up at her door. Like, there's just so much in this episode that was really funny. Like, this was a funny episode of the show.
It was, and the interaction between Cloris Leachman and Ian
Mr.
McShane,
Wednesday. Yeah.
Mr. Wednesday, and I'm not gonna
The Evening Star.
We'll just call her the Evening Star. I did write down her name and I wrote down a
Midnight Star.
pronunciation,
Sorry,
but I'm not gonna.
Sorry, she's Midnight Star, not Evening Star.
Well, Cloris Leachman is she the Morning Star? I thought she was the Morning Star.
No. The Morning Star was the girl with the telescope.
Okay, so yeah, okay, that's why she wasn't out in the evening. So it was Cloris Leachman is the Evening Star.
No, she's the Midnight Star. The Evening Star is the.
I thought the Midnight Star was the girl on the roof with looking through the telescope.
That was the Morning Star. Man, we must because she's the youngest.
No, because the Midnight Star is supposed to be the youngest.
Oh.
Yeah. I think so Cloris Leachman must be the Evening Star. Somebody will correct us and we'll have it corrected by next episode. But just the whole scene with her acting and the only thing I couldn't get out of my head is this woman is 93 and she looks freaking great, and the whole Ian McShane kind of hitting on her and combing her hair, and that is one of those scenes that could have felt forced, lame, pretentious, and because we had two great actors, by the way, but also it was so well written. I love that scene. I thought it was just cool.
What was that when he kisses her and all of a sudden it starts raining?
He makes it rain.
Well, she said, she kind of alluded to him having changed something dramatically. Like, what does she say? She says, sorry.
Well, she says, "I can taste you in the rain."
She said, "What did you do?" That's what she said. Right.
And he was just alluding that he's just bringing war. They didn't come out and say it. I'm assuming he made it rain. And he makes it rain twice in the episode, once with money and once with water. I think he's charming her to try to get her, for one, the guy's incredibly charming, and he talked about it previous episodes. Like, hey, I use charm. That's my weapon. That's the weapon of a con man and the weapon of a good god. And he's just trying to get everybody on the side for this war, for this big war. He's trying,
this war in Wisconsin.
Yeah, this war in Wisconsin, of all places, the homeland of my wife. And but I think it was genuine. I think for the feelings he had for her was genuine. I don't know what she could bring to the table as far as the war, other than Zernabog, which we need and we got, because again, minor gripe about, and this comes from the book, so you can't blame the show guys on this. Some of the situations Neil Gaiman comes up with, like the ATM thing for the bank job, and the way Shadow talked Zernabog into playing a second game of checkers, and the way he did it was, you can take a second swing at my head. I don't know. I just think there could have been something a little better than, oh, you could take a set just in case you miss because you're old. I mean, they needed him to play another game, which is fine, and it turned out good because Zernabog becomes such a. I mean, in the books, he's a great character. So, and I think, and I love this actor. So, I think you'll warm to him eventually.
I hope so. I did like how they got into the three sisters, the stars. I like how they alluded to them holding back the Doomsday Hound, right? That it's tied to the star, the Polaris star. I like that they made that illusion here without really spelling it out, or without even making it a question. They just kind of explained the story without saying how it's tied to anything. And I loved that. And of course, pulling the moon out of the sky at that moment. And just all very cool. I hope I do warm to Zernabog, because he's, I want to, like, I want to care about that character. I don't know if it's just a visual thing that I'm having a problem with. Me, Gary, like, I like things really polished. So it's hard for me to, like, I've never won for like the gritty realism in a fantasy setting. And I know that that's what this book is. It's like blending the two. And that's like the point, right? So, I'm trying to get beyond that to enjoy it. And so there are times when I am able to get beyond it when they kind of blend them with like, like a cab driver with flaming eyes. Like that shit's awesome. Like I kind of wish there were a fantastical element to Zernabog. Like if you were walking around holding like a badass hammer, whatever, like maybe I would, be able to connect to it a little bit more. It's a personal thing. It's not I understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's literally just personal taste.
Well, he's not a pretty god. What he does is bad. He's a god of darkness and maybe something else, which I won't spoil. But also, well, it's an ambitious book. I mean, we've both read it, and even Neil Gaiman mentions in his foreword and his afterword in the book, like, not everything worked in this. I wrote it, and he's saying he was very ambitious. It's a detective story. It's a love story. It's a fantasy story. It's a road trip story. It's a lot of things put into one. Each one of these subjects could be a book by itself. So credit to him for pulling it off. And, I don't know if I mentioned before, I love the book. I freaking love the book. And I don't like everything by Neil Gaiman, but this is like one of his best.
It's so crazy because I read it so long ago before I had experienced so many other books in this genre. It was one of the early, like, I'm 35. I don't know. I must have read it. I read it probably around the time when we met, like a decade, like a decade ago, before
2005.
I was reading, a lot of novels in this genre. So it's tough for me because I loved it at the time, but I don't remember it very well because I've read so much since, and I haven't really returned to it after having more comparisons. So for me, like, it's almost like I'm watching the story without having read the book because all I have are like fond memories of a couple characters like Easter and Technical Boy. So for me, it's just like I like it's fun to experience it without knowing what's coming next.
No, I don't remember everything, and they're changing stuff, but it's got a pretty nifty audiobook. If you guys are into that one, it's got a full cast, but it's not done like dramatically like a radio show. It's just got a cast of characters voicing the characters, but it's got a narrator, and Neil Gaiman reads all of the Coming to America parts and his forward and afterward. And I love how Neil Gaiman reads. Especially when you hear the author reading their own work.
Yes.
You hear like the cadence. That's why I always love Douglas Adams read all of his own audiobooks. And the amazing thing is his books read exactly how he talks. And I don't know how he pulled that off, but in my head, when he read the books, and Neil Gaiman kind of does that too. He has like it's like, I don't know, a mystical, magical cadence to his words. And the way he uses storytelling is he is a comic book writer first, in my opinion. And that's not a slight in any way, shape, or form. I think a lot of comic book writers are better than novelists these days. And comic book writing has come a long way since the 90s, my friend. And Neil Gaiman is one of the people who made it, what it is today. But that's also the cool thing about this show, and what was that? My wife was surprised that it wasn't a graphic novel, that it was actually just a novel. I read it like 6 years ago. I think it was right after I read Game of Thrones, and I just needed some more fantasy, so I decided to finally pick it up and read it. And I freaking loved it, man. But
I want to get into the scene. I feel like we're bearing the lead a little bit. I want to get into the sex scene in the middle of the episode.
Okay, is that the lead?
I don't know. I think so. I think that's probably what we're going to be talking about from this episode, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if for shock factor, if people still find that shocking,
Yeah, but I think it's more than just the a gay sex scene in a show. Like, I think that this was, and I know you hate this, but I feel like it is important to show both this point of view, but also like Muslim gay sex is not something that I think a lot of Muslims would like to have broadcast on TV. Like, I feel like this is there's an amount of danger of putting something like this out, right? Like I think there's an amount of like blowback you can get from putting something like this on TV. And I don't say this lightly, but I think there was some bravery in these actors and this show in depicting this. I do. So I just
Definitely.
think, yeah. So I think that
Definitely.
this was something that I think is maybe not unique to show this, but I think that it was something that was a standout moment and a message worth pursuing on this show.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I watched Spartacus, I watched, and there's Game of Thrones, and I live in San Francisco, and you grew up there, so I mean, to us, it's like whatever, it's just another sex scene. I didn't think about the Muslim. They did a post interview with Brian Fuller, and he did bring up the fact that he wanted to have a gay character in the show, and he wanted to, I forgot, I don't want to put words in his mouth, so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. He wanted to show that it's okay to have healthy romantic sex and not sex in an alley somewhere because, and again, this is where I'm going to paraphrase. He said there are some countries that are putting people to death for homosexuality, which is a fact. And I think that's the point you were getting at. And yeah, it was brave that he was poking at something. And something that probably needs to be poked at,
Yeah, I think it's worth poking. And not only that, but it falls into line with, like, if this were just gay
bad
sex.
Analogy.
Yeah, well,
sorry, just thought of that.
If this were just for the, like, kind of the Bilquist visual of like, shocking sex, right? Like if that's all this were, I would probably not be praising it, but that it falls in line with a lot of the theological and philosophical discussions that this episode and that this show are tugging at, like these threads that it's tugging at. I think that it makes a lot of sense in context, and it's probably one of the best examples of show not tell, of something that, like he said in the interview after, like this is something that may get them killed in some countries, and it's like a natural thing. So I like when they are actually saying something new and interesting, right? Like rather than just having it be shocking for shocking's sake, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So
yeah,
I like this one a lot. And I also thought it was interesting because it ties to the story really interestingly, that we get this Jinn that we know is a Jinn, and they go to the vagina world, the Bilquist vagina world, while they're having sex in this scene. So there's some relationship between Bilquist and this Jinn and where they go during sex, right? Like there's something crazy going on here that's unexplained. Like, is Bilquist a Jinn? I think it actually asks some questions about some of the characters in this story as well.
Yeah, because the scene, I don't know. I read it twice in the book. I've seen it in the show, and I came away with it like not confused. It's either I'm just not sure where we landed with the character. Was like, was that Salim still? And in the book, it was definitely Salim still, I think. And or was he just a cab driver, or did he become the Jinn, or did the Jinn take his body?
That's what I thought. I thought
that would be my favorite if I got to choose. If it was a choose your own story, that's the one I would choose. Yeah, choose your own adventure. That'd be definitely the one I choose. I thought, again, I hate to put important to this. I thought it was fair.
Yes.
It was fair because you know what? There's a lot of gay couples have to sit through a lot of goddamn straight sex in movies. So, it turnabout is fair play. All right. It's this. So now I know, how they're probably checking their watch going, God, the straight couple's still going at it, for God's sakes, yeah. So totally get it. But no, it was, it didn't feel like a big chunk dropped in the middle of the episode like the thing last week. And the main complaint about the thing last week with Bilquist is they did it in the first episode, and that could have been time spent on introducing somebody else. I just thought, that's me.
Agreed. So let's wrap this up with the bank robbery scene and
Yeah.
the idea that um that Shadow caused Snow. Like I also watched the behind the scenes with Brian Fuller after, and they were talking about how this is like Shadow's like coming out story of having like some sort of fantastical power. And is it him creating Snow, or is, you know, what happened here with the with Shadow, do you think?
I think it was him creating Snow. Um, I think bringing his power, being around Mr. Wednesday, probably brings his power out, because in that post interview they talked about, is it like a refraction from Mr. Wednesday's power? Well, I mean, he's his son, so it could be, but I thought it was Shadow making Snow. Um, I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious that Shadow is either he's a god or a titan or something, or a son of a god, which would be a
Right.
titan, and he's got some kind of power. For one, he's miraculously escaped some stuff, and he's also had some like really unfortunate luck around him.
Yes.
Very unfortunate luck, you know. And you know, the only thing I love, I love the bank. It's weird. I love the bank heist scene, except for the actual thing they did as the heist, but the whole acting part of it, and Ian McShane, you know, pulling off his like, oh, I'm just a security guard, like, and people would give their deposit like out in the open to a security guard. Really?
Yeah, right. It's
But
like,
it
I'll
is a
come back
fantasy
when it's
novel,
open.
so you know, whatever. And you know what? I could actually argue the payphone again. Like, we want to make this kind of timeless, you know, and surreal. So let's
Sure.
throw a payphone in there. What the fuck?
But isn't the payphone like of a specific time at this point? Like
Oh yeah.
it's like a rotary phone, right? Like it's not, you know, it's retro for sure, but it's not timeless per se.
No. Although no, you know what? They needed to use I'm going to take this all back now. They needed to use the payphone because Mr. Wednesday threw out their cell phones and said he hates them.
That's true.
Remember? So that's why they used the payphone. So never mind. It totally makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, if the payphone still existed, sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, good luck finding one. They found a working
Right.
one in a major American city. That's pretty amazing in
Across
itself.
from the bank that they were going to rob.
But I think Mr. Wednesday also has like this power of suggestion. Well, I know he does.
Sure.
So that works in his benefit too. I also want to talk about Mad Sweeney,
Yes,
because we
yes.
had
Sorry, I forgot about
because
that.
he is my favorite character,
Me too.
and I love his like mullet and just the entire look of him. And you know, I'm a grateful recovering addict, and it was really uh, crappy to see that my fellow AA brother, even though it was fictional, gets a pipe to the face.
Yeah, he gets Final Destination. Like,
Yeah, after 11 years, you know, being sober. Oh well, goes to show you. Yeah, even sober people die. And his luck has run out because he gave away the wrong coin, which I think Mr. Wednesday set up. And so when the Midnight Star, I believe, you know, plucked the moon out and it turned into a coin, and she gave it to Shadow earlier in the episode. She said, "Don't lose this one. You know,
right.
people have given you protection, and you just gave it away. Somebody gave you the sun. This is the moon. So it's not the father, it's the daughter." So he's got a certain amount of protection, but it looks like it's going to be only at night, I believe. I'm going to assume that because it's the moon. He gave away protection, like absolute protection, by giving away that sun coin, which looked kind of Aztec to me, didn't it?
Yes,
Didn't
I
it look like
agree.
something out of Pirates of the Caribbean? Like
Yeah, it
the
did look
Aztec
something
gold.
like cursed treasure, pirate treasure.
But you know, he gave away that coin to a certain person. So they showed Mad Sweeney, you know, freaking out, and they changed that a little bit from the book. Although he was nodding out a little bit in the bathroom, Mad Sweeney was, but it was from drinking, not from heroin. In the book, he's addicted to heroin. Hope I'm not spoiling anything. Minor spoilers, okay. And so you know, he's going to find his coin, and that's where he confronts Shadow. And just any scene between him and Shadow is awesome. I mean, they're short and they're calling each other names, a cunt, you know. But I don't know, it's just meaty. I love it. And Shadow tells him that he left the coin back at Eagle Point, Indiana, so he's got to walk back there. And Wednesday's clowning him the whole time, which is just fucking. I know. Ian McShane owned this episode, dude. He was so freaking great in it.
Yes.
And then we get to the ending, right? Which is Mad Sweeney goes to Laura's grave, digs it up, finds it empty, and that's when we see Shadow walk into the hotel room, and we finally get Laura Moon at the very end.
Yeah, so what's up? She's back to life. Like, is she a zombie? Is like, what's the deal here? I mean, let's where do you think they're going with this?
I wonder if they're going to do it straight like the book. Okay. Which I will not spoil, but I don't think they're going I don't know how much to say. It looks like they're pretty staying pretty faithful to the book. So she's zombie-ish. Yes. Remember that Shadow flipped the coin on her grave and it fell down. And when Sweeney dug up the grave, he pulled up the coffin, the lid of the coffin, and it had a hole burnt in it from the coin, obviously. And she looked pretty good. Now in the book, she's supposed to still look good, but she kind of smells funky, you know. And they kind of continue on that one. But yeah, she just says hi puppy, and there she is. I was expecting her a lot sooner. It played pretty well though. I'm glad they waited this long. I had a personal PTSD moment because you're working for Disney right now, and I think you might be working. You mentioned you might be working in the building I worked at down in Technicolor.
Yes.
And there's a certain room that was the pre-mastering room, and I saw the first and last 15 minutes of Sucker Punch, which Emily Browning was in, who plays Laura Moon. I saw that movie like 300 times because they had a bunch of problems with it, so I had to pre-master it over and 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 over again. So I don't know if Sucker Punch is a good movie or not, but every time I see anybody involved with it, I start crying. it just reminds me of that horrible period of time when I had to pre-master that freaking movie.
I have that with Spider-Man 3, man. I had watched that in like 14 different languages. And it's just the worst movie ever.
Were you QCing it?
Yep.
Oh yeah, God, it's horrible. Did you have to QC the whole thing, or were you just like?
Yeah, it was 100% QC because they were rolling out these cell phones in lots of different countries.
God.
So I had to watch Spider, and not only that, but I had to watch the English version of it like almost 30 times because the player had issues. So anyway, so I've seen Spider-Man 3 more than any human should.
Yeah, that's it ain't all fun in post in Hollywood. Okay, there is a little bit of suffering, not much, but a little bit. But they're really nice places to work.
Yeah, right.
Disney's awesome, and Technicolor was pretty fun place.
Yeah. I liked it.
That's where we met Ed Maloney, our good friend Ed Maloney. Yes. So all in all, pretty good episode, John. Is there anything else? Any other observations you have?
Let me see real quick. I liked that they touch back on the opening scene, which they haven't done before. Like the opening scenes in each of these episodes have been kind of standalone the last 2 weeks, and this week they get into they touch back on it, and they're talking about religion and kind of why it matters throughout the episode. And I think that it relates back. Like the first one, we just got to see Mr. Wednesday coming to America, right? And then the second one, we see Nancy, but we don't really get him in the story at all. Whereas this one, I felt like they brought up these themes and they carried those themes really, really carefully throughout the rest of the episode, which I liked a lot. And I wanted to know about the white wolf at the end, the imagery of that white wolf where they're driving along and there's the wolf in the snow. What is that out of the book? Like, what is that about?
That's going to be without spoiling too much. That's going to be involving Whiskey Jack, or that's like a mispronunciation of his god name. But it's the fox and the wolf is death. The wolf signifies death, and I'll just leave it at that. Cool. Kind of a Native American thing. So
I thought that was.
But it's definitely in the book.
I just loved. Look, I felt like this episode in general did a much better job of tying in the really cool imagery that these episodes present with like themes and story, and they felt very separate to me in the last couple episodes, where the visuals were cool but the story wasn't like, I don't know, it just felt off to me, whereas this episode very clearly connected a lot of threads that I think the show needs to be successful. So let's just say that if the rest of the series is like this episode, I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah, they mentioned it even in the and I did actually catch this, but they mentioned it in the post interview Brian Fuller did, where the seamlessness of the episode starts with somebody accepting death and it ends with somebody not accepting death.
Yes.
And that's that's how the chapters work in the book. So some of the changes they made, and I understand why they did it, because they want to introduce certain characters sooner than they were introduced in the book.
Changes to adapt.
But it does, if you're staying so close to the book, it does take away from the seamlessness of the book. So I mean, they got to, it's always tough to do the first season's tough, and especially the first 3 or 4 episodes before it finds its footing, and it feels like it really found its footing this episode. It has a season 2 that got announced 2 days ago, I believe. So they are going with the season 2. I don't know if they're going to get a bigger episode count. I doubt it. This looks expensive.
It does look expensive.
It looks very expensive, but that's great. Starz is quickly becoming a place to be. HBO is like backing out on projects now because of what's going on at Warner Brothers. Cinemax is backing out on projects, and other places. Expanse got rejected by a couple of cable networks, went to Sci-Fi. It's getting spread out more, and
it's definitely getting more spread out.
Where HBO just kind of thought they had a corner on the market, they're finding out that's not the case, because Netflix is quickly becoming HBO now. If not already. So there's a lot of different places, which is better for us as fans, because we're going to get more stuff. I mean, like, I'm watching American Gods, John, and I'm like, where in the fuck is Transmetropolitan? Like, one of my favorite comics ever freaking written. And yeah, it was drawn by a good friend of mine, Derek Robertson, but that doesn't mean anything. I actually loved the book before we became friends. And
where's
like
Fables?
Exactly. Well, Fables Once Upon a Time. Remember, Fables was
but
supposed to go to ABC, and then they fucked them and did Once Upon a Time. Fables would have been so much better. And it's like the perfect time for Transmetropolitan and Fables. Like, goddamn,
Transmetropolitan. I mean, it's the perfect time because shit's coming true.
It is dude, it's prophetic. So no, with Fables, I think we'll get Fables, especially with the Telltale game. That's one of the best Telltale games they ever did. Was the
Game of Thrones and Fables are my 2 favorites.
Oh hell yeah! We should do podcasts on the Telltale games, man.
I wanted to, man. They're the Guardians of the Galaxy one is coming out right now. We should do that. We should break down episode 1.
I'll do it.
It's out already. Yeah. Play episode 1 and we'll talk about it as soon as you're done with it.
Awesome. Before you go into your post amble, let me make a couple announcements here. We are going to start giving away prizes for this podcast. It's going to start out being a $20 Amazon gift card, and it's going to end being something very cool. We started doing this with Doctor Who podcast, and we're going to be doing it with American Gods. So like us, comment us, make a comment. You can make a comment either here or on our website, nerdrotic.com, or at iTunes, search Nerdrotic. And one of those places, if you throw up a comment and rate us, you go into the drawing to win a prize. We will contact you, give you our email address, and we will mail it to you. And again, there will be very cool prizes. Also, this weekend, we're going to be doing something a little weird. We're still going to be doing American Gods and Doctor Who recap and iZombie, but I'm also going to be going to Contact in the Desert, which is a UFO conference and ancient alien stuff. And I will be podcasting from there all 4 nights. So it'll be fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's going to be very different, but I can't wait.
Yes. You want to believe.
I want to believe. So for all the content, you can go to nerdrotic.com. It's www.nerdrotic.com. You can go into all of our posts. We post all of our podcasts and articles there. You can subscribe to us via WordPress at the website. You can also find all of our updates at facebook.com/nerdroticpodcast. From the Facebook group, you can like us there, and you'll get all of our our feedback on news stories, unboxing videos, and we'll post out all of our current videos and podcasts at facebook.com/nerdroticpodcast. That's the easiest way to get everything. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. It's Nerdrotic Podcast on iTunes. Please leave us a star rating or a review there. You will be eligible for our prize packs if you leave us comments there. It helps us move up the iTunes search engines. So please help us out there. It makes a big difference, and you might win something. Um, Obviously, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. Leave any comments on any of our videos. You'll also be eligible for prize packs. So that's another way that you can win stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnReed16. Gary is our you're hosting our Twitter feed, the official Nerdrotic Twitter feed, Gary?
For now, yes.
At Nerdrotics on Twitter. You can also follow at DeForce, DAFORCE, for news updates. That's Dennis. And Melissa, the first lady of Nerdrotic, is podcasting from at Agent Boss. Tweeting from at Agent Bossy Boots. Oof, stumbling over this one. You can also follow us on Instagram. It's Nerdrotic on Instagram. Anyway, but yeah, just leave comments for us, and we try to interact with you guys. So if you leave us comments or questions, we might read them on the podcast. We'll get back to you for sure. So let us know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, and don't hold back. You didn't last week, and we appreciate that, and that's okay. We love free speech, and we love the internet. God bless the internet.
And look, the more specific you are with your critiques, the better, right? Because I like interacting with people with differing opinions. I don't like when people try to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about just blatantly without pointing out things that they disagree with. But I do appreciate like actual criticism. So let us know what you think, good and bad. We like it all. We read it all, and we respond to anything that has an open-ended question that we can possibly respond to.
Yeah, this is a hobby. We're always open to suggestions, and we may take some, we may not. It's okay. It's all good. We're having fun. I'm having a blast. You having a blast?
Too.
Oh my God, this is fun. Real quick, I wanted to say congratulations to our friend Derek Robertson, who's finally, after many years of trying to get his properties into movies and television, has a series ordered at Sci-Fi, Happy, which was the most unlikely one I thought of any of his projects. Weird. And but Happy, his 4-issue miniseries, that's still out there. There's a lot of things still out there, but the Boys last was attached to Cinemax. But Happy is going to be getting a full season on Sci-Fi very soon. So congratulations, Derek. Love you, man. I know you have been waiting a long time for that, and you have earned it. So awesome. And we will be podcasting every episode on that one for sure.
Yep.
And maybe Derek will talk about it a little bit.
Man, next year is going to be the fall season is going to be crazy with like Runaways on Hulu, all the Freeform Marvel stuff, the new ABC shows. They're adding to the DC stuff. We're going to get more X-Men shows in addition to Legion. And, when Taboo comes back, I mean, we counted it. Dennis and I were counting them up, and I think we're going to have 24 shows that we're going to.
Jesus Christ. And that's Westworld too. Westworld's next year. We're not going to get any Westworld this year.
So much cool stuff coming. So stay tuned to Nerdrotic. We're going to be covering it all. We may bundle some of this stuff like we do with the CW Roundup, but we're going to cover all these shows. So it's going to be fun.
Yes, we are. All right, man. Hey, may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. See you next week.